Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Overwatch League Power Rankings video. I guess it's two videos, but this is the first one. I didn't know if I'd make one after the preseason one, but I figured, why not? I figured I'd make one for a couple reasons. The first thing that I want to mention is that if you didn't see the video that went out on Friday, you wouldn't know this, but if you did see the video that went out on Friday, you would know that I am out of town. By out of town, I mean I'm out of the country. On a little vacation. It's early summer for me, so uh, I'm not currently in the country, and I have not been able to watch the Stage 2 playoffs. So while this video is coming out after Stage 2 playoffs have concluded, they're being recorded well in advance of the Stage 2 playoffs because I will not be able to record them before they start. So I will try not to talk about anything about it. I'm going to try to focus primarily on the regular season for both stages anyway, because I think that's more important than what happens in a stage playoff. But obviously, if there's any confusion in the comments, that would be why. But it shouldn't really have that big of an impact because I don't really think much would change regardless of who wins or loses the stage playoffs. Second thing I wanted to say is that this is part one of a two-part series, or I guess two-part video. This is going to cover spots 20 through 11, and then 10 through 1 will be on Friday. So, with those two things out of the way, let's jump into my power rankings, 20 through 11, and we're going to start at number 20, where I have the Florida Mayhem. Florida Mayhem have not been looking very good so far this season. Stage 1 had a 1-6 record with a -12 differential. Stage 2, they're 0-7, -15, so their overall differential is 1-13, -27. And you'd think that a team that was unhappy with their Stage 1 performance would make change that would better their roster. And now they did make change going into Stage 2. They moved to a purely Korean-speaking roster. They still have McGravy and Tavik and Apply on the roster, technically, but they are essentially just kind of there until they can be traded away or whatever. So the Florida Mayhem are rebuilding the roster in an all-Korean roster, but they haven't done anything. They haven't signed anybody. I think the thing they need to address is their tank line. I think Swan is a mediocre main tank at best, and I think that Zephyr is far too inconsistent right now. I think really the main tank is the main thing to look at. There's a couple of main tanks out there that I can think of. Panker, Smurf, that you could probably pay some money and acquire. But this is a team that I just think is in a very weird position where they're rebuilding, but they haven't done anything for their rebuilding to make me think they've really put in any effort to improve. So that is why I have the Florida Mayhem at number 20. Let's move on to the number 19 team, where I have the Houston Outlaws. Stage 1, they had a 3-4 -3 record, which then in Stage 2 turned into 0-7 -20. To give them an overall record of 3-11 -23. Houston Outlaws do not look very good. Their roster seems inflexible and inconsistent. And I think it's ultimately Monte Cristo, I think, brought up a very good point on Watch Point. I think it's more of a coaching problem and an organizational problem than it is anything else. I don't think the players are given the resources to help them improve enough to get to a point where they could be a very competitive team. And I think that they've really just kind of they switch up their compositions all the time. Sometimes they decide they're going to run Spree Cool Mat with no Dante in, then sometimes they run Linkser and they run Dante, and it's just they're always changing things up. They don't seem to have a set roster at all. They don't seem to have any consistency in their roster, and I think that that is a main issue that this team is facing right now. I think it's going to be a huge issue for this team going forward if they don't fix this problem. So that is my main reason for putting them this low. And they had a very, very bad stage two. Um, they were the worst team in stage two. And if it wasn't for those 3 wins in stage one, they would easily be, in my opinion, the worst team in the league. But they haven't really done anything to improve. Something needs to happen with this team to get them to a better position if they want to move up at all. Next, at number 18, I have the Washington Justice. 1-6 -11 record in stage one, 1-6 -13 record in stage two, with an overall 2-12 -24 record. Now, obviously, someone's going to say this team has less wins than the Houston Outlaws. Why are they above them? Well, I'll tell you why they're above them. Because the Washington Justice are improving. They're a team that is getting better by the week, and you can see the improvement. The Houston Outlaws do not look like they're getting better. And when you look at the teams that the Houston Outlaws have beat, they've really beaten anybody that good. The Washington Justice beat the Florida Mayhem. Not a great win. But they also beat the Boston Uprising, which is a respectable victory. And they beat them after they had some time to get a better roster together, with Arc and Sleepy, their recent additions, so I think have made this support line incredibly talented. That's a much better support line than what they had previously. It makes the roster gel better because obviously, yes, it's a mixed nationality and bilingual roster of Korean and English speakers, but you have Arc who can translate, Giannis, who I believe can also translate, and then you have Corey and Sleepy, who both speak English, which means you have a little bit of better communication between your backline and your Zarya player or your Widowmaker player. So this team looks a lot better. They've improved significantly. I've been impressed by them recently, and I just think in general they have looked like they have been improving all the time. They are getting a new general manager, so we'll see how that impacts this team. But overall, I have the Justice here at 18 because I think that they look a lot better and they look to me like they've been improving. Next, number 17, I have the Paris Eternal. I already know people are going to be a little confused as to why a certain team is not here, but we'll get to them eventually. But we have the Paris Eternal here. Stage 1, 3-4 -8 record. Stage 2, 2-5 -8 record with an overall 5-9 -16 record. Main thing of note here is a new head coach, which I actually think has been really beneficial to this team. Yes, they won less games in Stage 2, but I think that the lineup that they are running now is a better lineup. And you can just tell by the differential, right? They were 3-4 -8, and they were 2-5 -8. It's a confusing thing when you have a team that did really well at the start of Stage 1 and then lost a bunch of maps. But 2-5 -8 isn't really a bad differential. Yes, it's the same as your 3-4 one, but you lost more games, but you lost closer games. If you managed to keep the same differential, but you lost an additional game. And I just think this lineup looks a little bit better. I still don't think it's a great lineup, but I think that with LH Cloudy playing tank, I think they look a lot better. I think Gray has been better in that flex support role. I think it was just the idea that Damon, their old head coach, was a French guy. He coached a lot of the French players. He knew the French players the best. And I think what they needed for the team to be the best was someone to come in and just say, I need to do what's best for the team. And, I need to kind of take a less relationship-based standpoint with the way I'm going to play this roster, and do it based on what I think is the best for the team. So I think this team is looking better, but overall I'm still not crazy about the way this team has been playing. And I'm skeptical of them moving forward. So I have the Paris Eternal here at 17. Up next at 16 is the Guangzhou Charge. Guangzhou Charge, I think have looked pretty good. But the main issue that you can see is that 23 map loss streak that went from the end of Stage 1 into the start of Stage 2. Their Stage 1 record is 3-4 -1. Stage 2 record is 2-5 -14. with an overall 5-9 -15 record. So two very different stages separated by one game. They had one more win in stage one than they did in stage two, but they lost 13 more maps in stage two. The Guangzhou Charge are a team that is struggling. They did not really get a good win in stage two. I believe their wins were against Houston, and I'm drawing a blank in their other win, but it wasn't an incredible win either. I've been relatively unimpressed with what they've done as a whole. I think they've looked just really not all that impressive. And that 23 map losing streak to me is kind of the kicker. Like you can't lose that many maps and expect to be able to compete when you can't even win maps. It's really bad. Oh, Atlanta, that's right. They beat Atlanta, which was also that was a decent win. But you can't really expect to be a great team if you can't even win maps. 23 straight map losses is not the record, but it was pretty close to getting to the record. It was a very bad look for the Guangzhou Charge this past stage. Yes, they got 2 wins. They were against 2 teams that aren't the best, and overall, I'm not incredibly impressed with what I have seen from the Guangzhou Charge, and that is why I have them at 16. Next, at 15, is the Los Angeles Valiant, who in Stage 1 were 0-7 -9, and in Stage 2 were 3-4 -6, with an overall record of 3-11 -15. First thing I want to say is if you look at a team that has 3 wins, and they only have -15 differential, this is a team that overall has better differentials than what we've seen in a lot of teams, right? They are -15 overall. You have a team like Florida who had a -15 stage 2, or Houston who had a -20 stage 2. The Justice had a -13 stage 2. The Guangzhou Charge had a -14 stage 2. The LA Valiant, yes, they started 0-7, but they were only -9, which means that they were losing all their games, but they weren't getting blown out every game they played. They had several map 5 games. I don't know if they got 4-0'd a lot, but the fact of the matter is they didn't even average losing by +2 in stage 1, and they didn't win a single game. Stage 2, they come out, they improve by 3 wins with a new head coach, a lineup that I think looks a lot better. And I think you look at that -6 differential, that's not that bad. It's a little worrisome when you go from -9 to -6, but you improve by 3 wins and you only improve by 3 differential. But their wins were very close, but they won. And they looked pretty good in some of their losses too. They looked good against the Gladiators for at least a part of it. I think the Valiant are really improving. This is a team that we've seen hit very high heights, and most of this team is still the same. Right now, the only difference is KSF instead of Soon. Kariv played their last match, but you still have Izayaki, and that's kind of really an interchangeable thing. So really the only real change is KSF. We've seen this team hit a very high in the first season. I'm curious to see where they can go from here. But for right now, the LA Valiant are sitting here at 15. Next, at number 14, I have a relatively controversial pick, potentially, but I have the Chengdu Hunters. Now, I personally am a believer that the Chengdu Hunters are still pretty overrated. Stage 1, they were 3-4 -8. Stage 2, they were 3-4 +1. They have an overall 6-8 -7 record. I'm not a huge fan of the Chengdu Hunters. Their style is very, very fun to watch, but I don't think it works very well. Yes, they win games here and there. They take maps here and there, and they get upset wins every so often, such as the one that they had against the London Spitfire. But in general, I think the Chengdu Hunters are not a super great team. they're very inconsistent. They can have really good games and then have really bad games the following week. Record wise, they're at a losing record. They're, I believe, the last team on this list with a losing record. Um, every team beyond now either has a 500 record or better. So they haven't been getting the wins. So, where can you really put them in a lot of categories if they're not getting those wins? And they just lost to the LA Valiant, um, which I think speaks a lot for the Valiant, but also kind of shows the Train Hunters can't even beat teams that they should, in theory, beat. I'm not crazy about the way they play. I don't think they've looked great as of late, and I don't think they've had enough success in any real capacity for me to say that this is a very solid top tier team. So for right now, I have them at number 14 in my power rankings. Number 13, I have the Toronto Defiant. A tale of two stages for the Defiant. Stage 1, 5-2 plus 5. Stage 2, 2-5 minus 7. Leaving them at an overall record of 7-7 minus 2. Now, they did make Stage 1 playoffs, a 5-2 record. Got you into Stage 1 playoffs, which was impressive. They were a good team in Stage 1. They were not an exciting team in Stage 1. They were just a good team in Stage 1, and that carries into Stage 2 in terms of their play style. They're not fun or exciting to watch, but they play what they play, and when they win and when they play well, they play well. But they had some issues, of course, with their roster. They lost Stellar. He retired. They have to add IM37, a very kind of great story of a player who just really rose the ranks. But the thing with IM37 is they put him on the Zarya role and moved Ivy to the Brigitte, even though Ivy had been playing the Zarya when Stellar was on the roster. It didn't really make a lot of sense. Things didn't really look great. But once they made the switch back over to having Ivy on that Zarya at the end of Stage 2, I thought the Defiant looked a lot better. They even picked up a win, a pretty big win against the Paris Eternal. So the Defiant, once again, look to be improving. I think it would be nice to see them get another main tank player. I think Yakupung is their biggest problem. Monte Cristo said Fissure going from Seoul to the Defiant. I think that would be a very interesting and exciting roster change to see. So that's really what I think about the Defiant. They're not an exciting team to watch, but they can play pretty well. I just think they need a couple things to change potentially with their main tank play. But right now, I think that them at number 13 is a good spot for them. Next, we have number 12, which is the Atlanta Reign. A Stage 1 record of 4-3 plus 6. A Stage 2 record of 3-4 minus 3 puts them at 7-7 plus 3 overall. This is a team that has two very quality wins recently over the New York Excelsior. Say what you want about the way the NYXL have looked in recent matches. The Atlanta Reign have been a somewhat below average team that managed to get two wins against a very good team. They made Stage 1 playoffs. They had to make some roster changes after Stage 1 with the loss of DeFran to retirement, the signing of FRD because of the issues with Daco that I'm not even going to get into, the addition of Baby Bay to replace DeFran. A lot of things had to really change with this team, and they didn't look great, but they won 3 games in Stage 2, 2 of which were against New York Excelsior, one of the top teams in the Overwatch League. That doesn't happen very often, but Atlanta Reign did it. This Atlanta Reign squad has been much improved as of late. I think they have been impressive somewhat, recently. And I think the Atlanta Reign are a team that are going to get better. I think after the All-Star break, they're going to look a lot better when they've had that time to play together more, work together more, improve their communications, improve their team skills. I think it's going to be a much better team that we're going to be looking at here at the end of Stage 3. So we'll see where they go. But I think the Atlanta Reign right now are a team that shouldn't be too worried about the position they're in because they have shown that they can beat some of the best teams in the league. It's just they need to get more consistent in how they beat some of these other teams in the league. Finally, for part one, we have the number 11 seed, which is the Boston Uprising, not number 11 seed, number 11 in my power rankings. Stage 1 record for them of 4-3 plus 3. Stage 2 record of 3-4 minus 6, giving them an overall record of 7-7 minus 3. This is a team that made Stage 1 playoffs. This is a team that had a major trade, trading away Note to the Dallas Fuel in exchange for RCK. I think RCK has been a perfect addition for this Boston Uprising roster. I think he is the exact player they needed. I think Note is a better diva player, but I think the Boston Uprising, I don't think traditional is really the Boston Uprising style. Traditional 3-3 isn't their best thing, and I think they do a lot better where they kind of can be a little bit more fancy and a little bit more funky. But they've been in, an interesting spot. They beat the LA Gladiators at the end of Stage 2, but they also lost to the Washington Justice. They're a very hard team to predict. They're hard to predict against, but they're also hard to predict for. I got both of my predictions for the Boston Uprising wrong at the end of Stage 2. I guessed them to lose to the Gladiators and to beat the Justice, and neither of those things happened. They're a very hard team to really gauge right now, but I am also, in the same way that I feel about Atlanta, I think Boston is improving, but I also think Boston's in a better position. They may have the worst differential right now, but I think they're the better team. I think they play better as a group. I think they look a lot better, and I just think that they are a much more clear and concise team to kind of watch their play. Fusions is an incredible shot caller. He is one of the rookies of the year, in my opinion. You have someone like Bumper, of course, that everyone's going to say is going to be that rookie of the year because the Vancouver Titans are such a dominant team, but I think Fusions has such a major impact on this Boston Uprising roster. He's a huge leader for this team, and I think it's really good to see the way that the Boston Uprising rally around him. So the Boston Uprising, to me, are a very good team, a team definitely on the rise. You have a lot of really close teams, I think, in this kind of 11 through 6, 11 through 7 range. And really a good week and a bad week is really all the difference between some of these teams. But you won't know who those rest of those teams are in that area until we get to part 2 coming on Friday. But here's a little recap for you, just in case you want to remember where I placed everybody. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing, as it helps out a bunch. I'm glad I kept this power ranking a little bit shorter than the last one. I'm hoping that part 2 is about the same length, but we'll see when we get there. Like I said, if you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. Comment down below your opinions on any of my placements here. Had some great conversations after the first power rankings before the season started. Love to have some more good conversations after these ones. But I'm going to get out of here, so thank you so much for watching. And I will see you all next time.